An act relative to the protection of the wetlands is most recently amended. Notice of the time and place of this hearing was originally published in the Fairhaven Neighborhood News on June 2nd. It's also posted in the town clerk's office. And we are being taped for broadcast. Persons wishing to be heard will be called in the following order. So the first thing we have are minutes for approval from the April 27 meeting. Joanne, thanks for hours of video watching to get those minutes done for us. Thank you for sending those. Anybody questions, comments, or want to make a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That's unanimous. Thank you, Joanne. Okay, on to old business. Print's a little small here, but actually, no, sorry. We have meeting mail. We have our MACC dues for July 1 through June 30. You know, Joanna had printed out the roster, and I know we'll be down to 6 members here.
But they've got Paul Valenti on there, and
Yeah.
we were questioning whether we want to pay for that because it can't be switched to another member.
Right. Then
So-
I'd say no, we don't.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would bring the price down from $443 then?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So, just for record keeping's sake, entertain a motion for the Conservation Office to pay our dues to the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners for 6 members and the 2 staff people.
So moved.
You have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposed, nobody abstaining, that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, on to old business. We have a continuation of a public hearing. So that is still open from Fernando Y. for Acushnet Company, 115 Manchester Lane, file SE 001-0571. Notice of intent was filed by Acushnet Company for property located at 115 Manchester Lane, map 11, lot 25C.34. The applicant proposes to construct a 55-foot by 110-foot visitor center with associated parking lot reconfiguration, utilities, subsurface sewage disposal system, and a stormwater management system within the 100-foot buffer zone for a bordering vegetated wetland. Work proposed is limited to plan name is Test Facility Visitor Center prepared for Acushnet Company, that's dated April 26th of 2022. And you want to update us on the conversation you had with Kevin Keller?
So they're asking to continue this for more information until the acceptance of the stormwater report comes back, just in case they need to revise their NOI.
Okay.
So it's going to be continued to the July 27th meeting, and he was fine with that date.
Any comments, questions on this? Entertain a motion to continue until July 27th.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that's unanimous, thank you. Also continued, restoration plan, Jason Carvalho, lot 9B, Keene Road. File number is SE 001-0572. Restoration plan review for property located at Keene Road, map 3, lot 9B. What do you know about that?
So I have not heard back from Zenith on what the nurseries have available
Okay.
for the restoration plan, and I didn't want to have Beals and Thomas make a recommendation until we knew what was available. So, I do have a call into Niles, and I'll probably hear from him tomorrow.
Okay. So we will continue that one unless
Yep.
there's questions on that.
No.
Motion to continue until July 27th.
Make a motion to continue to July 27th.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Also continued, another public hearing, NOI, Jason Montero, 48 Cushman Street, SE, the file number is SE 001-0573. Notice of intent was filed by Jason Montero for property located at 48 Cushman Street, map 15, lot 586. The applicant proposes to raise the existing dwelling and build a new single-family dwelling with associated utilities and site grading. The applicant is represented by Niall Zager of Zenith Consulting Engineers, LLC. Plan name is Plan to Accompany Notice of Intent, 48 Cushman Street, Acushnet, Mass. Dated May 23rd of 2022. And we continued this last time because we didn't have a file number.
File number's in, so it's ready for approval.
Okay.
And I got a call from Niles and Jamie Bissonette.
Mhm.
They discussed that they'd already made their presentation, did they need to come in tonight, and I told them they didn't need to come in.
Correct. Before we vote, Mr. Montero, any questions, anything you want us to know in addition to what we discussed 2 weeks ago?
No.
Okay. In that case, I'll entertain a motion for a positive order of conditions for the Acushnet Street.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? That's unanimous. I'll entertain a motion to close this hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
New business. New business, otherwise we'll go to discussion.
No new business.
Okay. So the first item is Buzzards Bay Watershed Restoration Projects. Review of matters presented, votes may be taken. I know I had asked to have this put on there, and you've had a conversation with Sarah Quintal.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm going to the
And
meeting.
you're going to go to the
Yep,
meeting?
yep.
Yeah, so, 2 years ago, actually it was a year ago, we had voted to write a letter of support for Buzzards Bay Coalition. Application for funding for restoration projects, and we got the funding, and now they're looking for representatives from different towns to go to this meeting, and Pat's gonna go to that, and we'll see what funds we may be able to get for
Correct.
for a restoration project.
And you're going to?
If I'm able to go. yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I just saw that you were on
yeah, she had sent that to me.
you were on the list.
Yeah, and if it fits with my work schedule. So
Okay.
it's a Thursday, isn't it?
It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
At
It's,
1:30.
so it's a Thursday.
Tomorrow's
All
Thursday.
right,
Yes.
okay.
Next. Yeah.
All right. So that's it for that one. Next is 2 Tilly Way, Aaron Carvalho, wetlands violation.
Yeah, I just want to know, what do you want to do to resolve this? We haven't gotten on the property as a commission.
Mm-hmm.
It's very obvious, just standing out in front of the house on Tilly Way, that the whole area's been disturbed. We're going to need to make some site visits before the 27th meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that maybe next week I would pull together a list of hot items.
Yeah.
Some enforcement things that are dragging on, and try and set up those meetings for
Yeah.
the third week in July. Is anybody going on vacation in July that they're not gonna be available, or?
That,
The first week.
yeah, saying I'll be going
Yep.
from like the 8th through the 13th at a conference.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are off from the beginning, so
Yeah.
third week in July would be good.
Whatever, yeah,
Third
that
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, yeah, this should be one of them. And this is plenty of notice for Mr. Carvalho to make himself.
And even if he doesn't, we can see it right from the street in front, and we can walk right up back to the power line easement.
Sure.
And it's plain as day.
Yeah.
The real question is whether or not he got permission. He said that he got approval from the agent to do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no documentation to that effect. In fact, there's documentation to the contrary.
If there's a way to get that to us prior to that site visit,
I will.
that'd be good for
Yep.
us to read.
Yep.
Okay. That's, any other questions on 2 Tilly Way? Next, you have 22 Burr Avenue, Christopher Holiday.
I did make it by there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely pushing the limit.
Mm-hmm.
More concerning is that someone has surveyed that whole side of the street, and all the survey markers say Lot 1, Lot 2, Lot 3, and I think he's trying to make a lot out of that side yard. And that would need to be discouraged quickly. Or some poor guy comes along and buys it thinking he can build something there. But he's into the wetland by that much. And I think it's far enough of what he needed for a lot line.
Hmm.
So whether it's worth stopping by and ringing the doorbell and talking to him, or sending him a letter and asking him to come to a meeting, or if we want to go by on our site visit day and have you guys look at it. I've only seen it now, you folks have seen it, in prior stages, so.
It was a long time ago.
Was it?
Yeah. I thought he just wanted it for a yard, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone.
Somewhere for his kids to play, I think that's what he said.
Yes.
Yeah, this is down the slope into the wetland, we wouldn't be
Yeah,
playing there.
the whole topography goes down.
Yeah. I'll throw it on the site visit.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
135 Mattapoisett Road, Corey Maderas.
So we're having trouble getting on this site. I've gone by 3 or 4 more times. The firewood never got moved from the front.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at it now, I'm wondering if it really was firewood. It's awful big in diameter, and I don't know that it got placed there very easily. So I'd like to send her another certified letter asking her for a date certain, and if she won't, I'd ask that the commission vote to turn this over to town council and let them pursue it. There's nothing else we can do, unless we want to go get a search warrant and go on their property, but that's
Town council, because they're not giving us access to the property?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and council would send them a letter saying, we want, the town wants access to the property to inspect, and if you don't, then they would take legal action, and like we had to do with Keating, we'd maybe get a search warrant, but to me, that's kind of extreme.
Mhm.
It's easily resolved by a site visit.
Yeah.
If there's nothing wrong, there's nothing wrong, let us come in.
What's the violations here?
Complaint of concrete being filled into the stream there. There's a culvert right at the edge of their property. And from the road, it does look like there's a few pieces of concrete laying on the side down towards the back. On my third drive-by, there's some 6-wheel dump trucks there. There's some wood cutting going on. There's some activity that could lend itself to this.
Mhm.
There isn't an adjoining property to go on that person's property with permission and look. It's just, dead land there.
Mhm.
But I heard Joanne on the phone with the woman, and I could hear the lady yelling at her. That, we haven't made it over there, and we've only missed one appointment because I didn't know we had that holiday off, and that was the first Monday.
Mhm.
There haven't been any other scheduled visits. Joanne even offered for me to go by on a night that we have a meeting, I could come by at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, and that wasn't acceptable either. So,
Maybe 6 o'clock,
yeah, maybe 6 o'clock.
4 to 6.
So, I would rather just try and bring this to a close
Yeah.
and move on from there. And maybe if we schedule it now, the 3rd Saturday in July might be acceptable.
Mhm.
I'll make that offer.
And there's this woman said like Saturdays at 12
Yeah,
would work.
Yeah.
Yes.
You said 12 o'clock.
Short time frames, right?
Yes.
2 weeks
Yeah.
ago, you told us that. yeah.
That's one of those things, that third Saturday, I'd go over there at 12 o'clock if she's gonna be available. If
Maybe
early is
we could
better.
even start at 10 o'clock on Saturday or something. Start a little later and go do it. All right, we can communicate about that before then.
Okay, sounds good. Any other questions on 135, Mattapoisett Road? 415 Middle Road, George Mortitas,
Yeah.
wetlands violation.
So, this is another one of those, and I was telling everybody I jinxed us saying that the last issue was the last one of those. So I got a complaint that wetlands were being filled at 415 Middle Road. So I went over, and there's been some soil imported to the driveway. It looks like he's refinishing his driveway and brought in some hard pack to put the asphalt on. But if you look at the back of it, he dug into the wetlands, or his contractor dug into the wetlands, took out some hydric soil to make the driveway longer and stockpiled the soil on the side. So I left him a note to call me. And then I realized the work was ongoing, so I went back to the office and I typed out a violation notice and a cease and desist. And when I went back, the car was in the driveway. So I went to the door and rang the doorbell, there was no answer. So I left the information under the windshield wiper of the car.
Mhm.
I got a phone call probably 30 minutes later.
Mhm.
So I went back over and I met with him.
Mhm.
And I had time to look in the file for 415. And unfortunately, in 2005, there was a notice of intent there to build a new house. And the commission issued a positive order of conditions, and a neighbor appealed that decision of the commission.
Okay.
And DEP issued a superseding order of conditions. And they changed one condition, and the condition was the house could be built, but nothing could go beyond the back of the house.
Mhm.
And there had to be a living fence put up of shrubberies and bushes, and it had to be maintained. So that was for the first owner who built it. So 10 years later, this fella came along and bought the house, had no knowledge of the notice of intent, didn't show up on their title search and all of that. Came to this commission in 2015 for an RDA to put a 36-foot swimming pool behind his house,
Mhm.
and it got approved.
Mhm.
And I looked at the plan, and the plan was presented to the commission for the RDA, didn't have the living fence on it.
Mhm.
But the plan, kicked back on the superseding order, had it sketched in on it. So I don't know if it was an omission by the engineer, or no one even had access to the 2005 NOI. It had been a long time. So he squared off, when he put the 36-foot pool in, that 36-foot pool went into the wetlands by 36 feet. So he squared the yard off behind the pool, and then he did his driveway, and he was squaring his driveway off when I got the phone calls.
Mhm.
He has built probably a $25,000 stone wall along the side of his property. He's really spent a lot of money up there. He's got a really nice setup. So he's just a regular hardworking guy, and he said, look, if I have to rip it out, I'll rip it out, but I don't want to.
Mhm.
I didn't know about all of these conditions, and had I known, I never would have done it. So I told him that rather than give him an enforcement order now, that I would set up a site visit, and we could go there for a site visit.
Mhm.
And you guys can see the 2005 order of conditions, and you can see what happened to this guy. And then we can make a decision as to how you want to handle that. He's not trying to deny anything, or he's right there. So then, and I would set that up for the same third Saturday. He's out of town for 2 weeks anyways. And then cleaning up, enforcement stuff. I've made like 5 phone calls to DEP Strike Force on Wilfred Lane,
Mhm.
and it's just crickets. So I'd like to send him one last letter asking him to give us a plan of what he's gonna do. And if we don't get that letter, turn that over to town council and then pursue it. And just get it off our desk. Sound logical?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. And then, I got a call to go to 2 Blacksmith Drive. And there is there's a fairly new house at 2 Blacksmith Drive. And the owner wanted to extend the backyard a little bigger in the back to give them some more.
First house on this, first house.
Right side.
Okay.
And almost every house on the right side has wetlands violations. So all those houses are in the buffer zone,
Mhm.
every one of them. And believe it or not, the road was built under notice of intent, but every house was built under an RDA. I couldn't believe it.
Hmm.
One person's put a swimming pool in their backyard. They're building a big gazebo, and today I went by to tell the woman from 2 Blackstone that I wasn't gonna be able to meet her on Thursday because I was going to the meeting with Sarah.
Mhm.
And on the way there, she emailed me saying she couldn't make the meeting and could she reschedule, so I told her we both had the same problem. And as I drove by her house, number 6, Blacksmith had about 8 truckloads of dirt trucked into the backyard right up against the woods in the buffer zone. So I left them we have these green cards in the office that say I was out for an inspection to call us. So I wrote stop work on it. I knocked on the door, I rang the doorbell, I left it with, I believe, the owner's mother was babysitting. There was 4 cars in the parking lot, but no one was home.
Mhm.
So I left the phone number and I told them to stop work, and I'll be keeping an eye on that. Then, so that's number 6. Number 8 is the one with the pool. And then number 10, as I was turning around in the circle, I saw a lot of dirt on the side being filled in and a pipe pointing out towards the street.
Hmm.
And I recognized the contractor doing the work, so I stopped and walked over, and he put the window down and said, "Should I stop now?" And the owner came out, and it was actually, I recognized the fellow, he's been into the conservation office a few times, asking questions, but they were very generic. They weren't specific to, his address. And he's leveling off the yard beside his house. His wife is disabled, she's in a powered wheelchair, and she wanted to be able to get to a flower garden. And the work's 99.9% done. So I suggested that he do an RDA after the fact. He has no issues with that. So that's gonna be on the site visit for the third Saturday as well. But something needs to happen at Blacksmith Drive that all of these people know that their houses are in the buffer zone and they need permission to do any work. They're really getting carried away back there.
What kind of pool above ground?
In-ground.
So we issued an RDA for 6 and 8.
Yeah.
For every house.
No, he's talking.
No, I'm
about
talking for the pools.
The pools.
So the homeowner of number 6 reached out to me today and wanted to know why conservation was at his house. I guess he saw it on his Ring cam.
Yes, they had a Ring doorbell that I ran.
So,
Yes.
and then he sent me pictures of the dirt in his yard. He said he was just grading around the pool that they just installed.
The pool's all installed and all fenced in. The dirt is off to the right, and it's right there.
Well-
There's no need to import dirt if you built an in-ground pool. There's a lot of dirt that came out of the ground. It needs to be looked at. He
Fair
got
enough.
an idea to build a pool. I haven't seen that, and we didn't come across it. But
I looked it up, we get the minutes, it was
We haven't.
September
It was a year and a half.
of 2020.
all right,
Was it
so
the two
Yeah,
ladies that
I'm
did them
going.
together? Were there two on
Yeah.
the same
It
agenda?
was 6 and 8, both of
Yeah.
And it
them.
was Zoom?
yeah, there's two pools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
Joanne will look it up, but he definitely needs an approval to
Yeah,
try
I seen
that.
the pictures, it's probably about 30 yards of dirt he brought in.
No, it's a lot more than that.
Okay.
It's a lot more than that.
So we're doing the site visit then on the 27th.
You guys
Yeah.
ate lunch together.
Busy Saturday.
Well, they're all pretty close together anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And then what'd you say, the one with, was it 10? The one that you saw the contractor? We went there for
Yeah.
COC, but
Yes.
we didn't give it to him.
And that's what
because-
he said, the commission came out for COC, but they said, oh, you're not done yet, so why don't you call us back when you're done?
Right.
But why would there be a COC for an RDA? That's what I've been kicking that around in my head, because the house was built under an RDA, the road was built under an NOI. It's just all kind of screwy. So,
10 might have had notice of intent.
but we'll look tomorrow
One of them
again.
might have had
Yeah,
them.
we'll look tomorrow again.
But I know the 2 Blacksmith Drive pools were
They were
in
RDAs.
September, yep,
Mhm.
in September of 2020.
Yep.
Okay.
Maybe it was September 22nd.
And that's
I
another
looked it up.
reason that it's good that we decided to inspect RDAs when they're done,
Mm-hmm.
so that we have a final picture and we've got that jumping off point, so. So that's it on that stuff.
Before we go any further, either of you have questions for the commission, or you're just here to listen today?
No, I wanted to clarify something from the last meeting.
Okay, well, we're done with our discussion agenda, so.
Oh,
Is it about the bylaw?
yeah, I wanted just to review the stormwater bylaw.
Well,
and-
That's actually next on the.
It's next on the agenda, and we
Oh.
might be able to save you that time, Pam.
Okay, all right.
No, we've got the Deep Brook Estates update, that's all that's on there, though. So,
Yeah.
if you wanna, Pam, talk about this.
Well, either one.
I'm not in a hurry.
Okay,
So-
well, let's do the bylaw update. I actually wrote it on top of.
Okay.
Yeah, we're down an hour.
You know, yeah. And you know the routine, we're on camera, so.
Yeah. And I'm sorry that I just popped in, but there were a few things that Pat and I had talked about that were discussed at the last meeting, and I just wanted the board to have the clarification regarding the stormwater bylaw. The stormwater bylaw, as you all know, it had been presented in 2020, and then in 21, Pat had, there was a new bylaw to be processed. Both of the bylaws have been approved. in which I know, Bob, I had sent a copy to you of the approval, or at least I thought I sent the approval to you, but I know I sent it to Joanne and also to Pat.
I did find the one you sent me.
You did? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And I guess there was a little bit of confusion regarding the posting. And you haven't received anything further from town council, have you?
Well, after there was a lot lost in emails.
Okay.
So when I finally came down and saw you,
Yeah.
and you said that you had posted it on the bulletin board,
Yeah.
that's all that was required.
Right.
So I was watching the town website because town council had told me that once it's posted on the town website for 17 days. But he
Right.
wasn't aware that we have a bulletin board outside the Parting Ways building.
Yeah.
I've taken the AG's training on all of these things, and I realized that you did make a public posting.
Right.
But I don't read the bulletin board on the Parting Ways building. So I had no way of knowing that that became effective.
Yeah.
And I was monitoring the website where all that other stuff gets placed by others, as you pointed out.
Right.
You don't
And-
manage the website.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even aware until Joanne called me that there was even a stormwater page on the website. That website had been created by Brian Noble. And I do help out to do the postings when I can. Unfortunately, Joanne had called me or sent me an email on May 12th, which was 2 days after town meeting and 3 days before the town election, in which I had to do a hand count, and had found out that same day that we were gonna have to do a hand count. So, I've dealt with most of you on many occasions, and I am always willing to help out anywhere that I can. That particular week was a very stressful week, to say the very least. But just to give you an update that I have spoken with Erin Messier, who's in the selectman's office. Oh,
She actually posted it that same day as soon as I knew, I called Erin.
Oh.
And 5 minutes later, it was on the town website.
Okay, but I did, I talked to her today and she said she had not posted it.
No, she,
Oh, okay. So, but I do believe that it will need to be reposted because I don't believe that's the correct dates are on there.
on the bottom of it,
Yeah.
the July
Yeah.
9th.
Yeah, and the meeting was actually June 20th of 2020. And
No,
that
this was a 2021.
Right, but there was a date listed on there that said May 15th of 2020, and it should be June 18th. That was the COVID year, and we were supposed to have town meeting on the 15th of May, and unfortunately we did not. It was pushed out until June. So I talked with her today, and my goal is to get that rectified tomorrow.
But this
so
was
that-
2021. Because I started July 1st, 2021.
Right, right.
And this went to the spring town meeting.
Yep, the May. But anytime there's a change, it automatically gets reposted with a date so that we know that something was done
Yep.
on that day at town meeting.
Yep.
So that's the date that we just want to correct.
Okay.
You're
Okay.
saying there was stormwater bylaw passed in 20 and then another one in 21?
Yes, yes. That Pat had brought to the Board of Selectmen that the EPA had,
I don't know that I agree with that.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't, I'm just saying, I didn't start until July 1st, 2020, and
Oh.
town meeting had already happened.
Right, not the first one.
But the first one was 2007.
That was the very
That was the very
first one.
first one by the
This-
planning board.
The second, I'm sorry, the second one.
So I'm not aware of a second one from 2020.
Oh,
Yeah, and then,
Okay.
and as far as the 2021, when I presented that to Julie, she told me there wasn't time to put that on the warrant.
Okay,
So I thought that that never went forward, that just the soil bylaw went forward.
okay.
And I was getting phone calls from town meeting, I had COVID,
Yes,
and they were calling me saying that Selectman Gaspar was saying this already passed in 21, and I'm saying, no way, it didn't pass in 21. And then Ryan went to the warrant
yeah,
and found it in the warrant and said, yes, it did, and that's what started the chain of events of us emailing you.
right.
But it was all lost in the translation, that it did get publicly posted on the bulletin board.
Right.
And the important thing for us is that this is in effect.
Right, exactly, and it has
I don't want any-
been
right.
since I sent the notice out to you, which was back in December, I think.
Actually, I think it was,
Was it, might have been before that.
I don't want to guess because we're in a meeting here, but we'll tie
Yeah,
those loose ends tomorrow. But the
Okay.
important part is this is in effect,
right,
and this solves a lot of trouble for us and everybody else in town.
right.
So it's a
Yeah.
happy ending to a sad story.
Exactly, so whatever the miscommunication was along the way, I just wanted to make sure that we all are on the same page and
Yep.
that we do know that it is all
Had
set.
I known that it got posted on the bulletin board,
Yeah.
I would have been okay.
I
because
thought
I understood the
included that
significance of
in
that.
the email, but
I
that's
probably didn't read the whole
okay.
thing. I told you that day, I'm Irish, and you have to tell me twice.
Okay,
But we're good,
so we're all set.
yeah.
Yep, Bob looks like he has a question.
No, just going back to the point you had made about 2020 and the date. So you're saying there was a look, so on this last page, page 12, in parentheses, there's 5/15/2020?
Yes.
And that meeting date got moved because of COVID.
Right.
So you're saying that's the little thing that Erin
That we
needs to
need to
fix?
update, yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I spoke with Erin about that today, and I had told her that I would get back to her with the specifics to make sure that it's the correct copy.
One
Yeah, with
important thing,
correct
is there any
dates.
way that we can resolve this by the 30th of June?
Resolve,
The dates. I have a stormwater report due to EPA
yeah,
at the end of June. And I need to be able to say which bylaw is in effect and why the one didn't pass a town meeting
yeah.
and all of that stuff in my report.
Oh,
So-
absolutely.
Okay.
Actually, it would have been done today, but
No problem.
I'm down a person again, so.
And we're all taking a bunch of vacation between now and July 1st.
Exactly.
Yes.
Not me, but everybody else.
Yeah.
But, and I would like to clarify one other issue about the changes in the office, in my office. You had alluded to the fact that it was in part due to overtime. I do not have an issue with overtime in my office because I only have 2 part-timers.
Yeah, we just all got told no more overtime for anything.
Yeah,
So
I
I
don't.
figured,
yeah.
same situation for you.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, that had nothing to do with the reason that I proposed changing the hours. It was more election related.
We're changing ours to match yours.
Oh,
I
are
think
you?
it's a great idea, yeah.
But
That works.
that's it?
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, ma'am.
You're welcome.
So then a follow-up to that topic.
Oh, thank you.
So I got an email from the owner of 39 Nice, as you can imagine,
Mhm,
because I did call him and tell him that we had discovered this.
mhm,
And he was very happy
mhm.
because he hasn't cleared, more than 40,000 square feet. And he had just gotten an estimate from Farland of $39,000 for his
Mhm.
engineering,
Right.
and was really in a tizzy about what he was gonna do with that.
Mhm.
So, his violation is gone, and the folks that just left with their NOI, they didn't need a stormwater permit. The change in square feet does not apply to commercial and industrial properties, it only applies to residential properties.
Mhm.
And I did a little reading and talking to Kevin McHugh from Conoco, and we're allowed to, we have the authority to develop a general stormwater management permit for specific types of projects like construction of a deck, patio, or retaining wall. Some of these more general and less intrusive things that we could eliminate that big cost of the engineering and come up with a set of standards for decks and patios. where we just have a generic permit that we issue as a stormwater authority. And I figured I'd work on that in July. Get you guys a draft of something, because paying an engineer $5,000 to review a plan that's been drafted by another engineer for $5,000 kind of really puts the sting into
Mm.
adding a deck to your house, or putting a pool, or any of those things.
And this is for projects that are less than 40,000 square feet.
These are for residential projects.
All right.
These would be for residential, just a general permit instead of a hybrid for every little thing that we do.
Mm.
So,
You need a stormwater permit for a pool or a deck.
you may. You have, see, right now the regulation says you have to demonstrate, even if you don't trigger the 40,000 square feet, you still have to demonstrate that you're controlling your stormwater and your project isn't gonna have an adverse effect on a neighboring property.
Mhm.
We don't have any regulation or language about any of that, and we haven't required that. But if somebody's building a house and they're at, 39,000 feet of disturbance, and then they're gonna put in a pool and they're gonna put in a wall. Currently, the stormwater bylaw says if you build a wall longer than 12 feet, you need a stormwater permit. That's just a little over the top. This bylaw that we have was an EPA template,
Mm.
was everything that they wanted. And because we were under the gun and facing a penalty from EPA, the planning board as a stormwater authority adopted that and it passed the town meeting because everybody had a gun to their head. And then it never got amended and actually didn't get enforced. And now that we have to enforce it, we're realizing the cost that this puts on a lot of people and the extra work. So it'd be nice to move this down to the less intrusive things and have an easy way of doing these, instead of it taking 6 weeks or 8 weeks. It's up to you guys. But I will draft something and get it to the commission for you guys to consider.
So in the case of 39 Guys Lane, so that's off our docket, is that still Board of Health because of animals?
He'll have to get an animal permit, yeah. And I did notify the fellow that was concerned about the project,
Mm-hmm.
so that he didn't think something underhanded went on and it just disappeared off the radar screen. He got it, so he was all set.
Do you know of any other projects in the last, year that had been in that range and now aren't, like 39 Guys Lane?
For stormwater, well, I can think of a couple of residents that got stormwater permits for single-family homes that didn't need to. But there's nothing, we had no way of knowing that it was put on the bulletin board and not onto the website. That's the snafu. But Pam was right. If she puts it on the bulletin board outside her office, it's posted. And we didn't ask the question the right way to get that answer. And when I went down to see her face to face and talk to her and have a little bit of discussion back and forth, that's when she said, no, I posted it on the bulletin board. I don't post things on the website. That's somebody else that does that. So I immediately called Erin and asked her to do it, and then Erin emailed me 5 minutes later and said it was done. And that's where I printed these out from today.
Mm-hmm.
Is from the stormwater page. And the other confusion is if you go to the bylaws on the town website, they're 2 years behind on the date. The bylaws may not be behind, but the bylaw date says 2018, but things were changed in 2020, 2021. And Pam emailed me and said that, as soon as the clerk's office has time, they're gonna get that updated. But in the meantime, it's on our stormwater page.
Mm-hmm.
I sent it out to the consultants that we work with. I've added the stormwater and wetlands links to my email,
Mm-hmm.
so that everybody I email, there's a link to all of those regulations automatically. Hopefully they'll click on them and things will get better.
Costas, that was somebody who was discouraged by that bylaw.
Who?
Oh, yeah.
But I remember you saying something like you may want to wait, right? When we're
Until
at
it
Costas
passed.
at
Yeah.
the
We-
horse
We're
farm.
waiting for town meeting.
Yeah, but we didn't know that this was all done.
So do we know if Costa's working on the project now?
Oh, I have no idea. I
Alright.
probably
This is
reach
the-
out to him and tell him to
This
go
is
get
the
that
folks with
grant.
The horse farm.
The horse farm
Chip
with the
and
cows.
stables.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you
yeah.
see the horse.
We were just talking about them
the
the other
cows
day.
in the back.
Quick line, yeah.
That seemed to have died on the vine.
Maybe they've discovered.
And I have one more address that I understand you folks are familiar with. I've been getting a lot of complaints about some wetlands cutting and filling on a paper street between Pejot and Cushman. And today, I actually got the person to call me that was complaining, and they're complaining about 116 Cushman Street, Mr. Baptiste, and I understand that you folks have been out there and told him to stop cutting in the wetlands and doing work, and evidently he's back at it with a vengeance. So I am gonna go there tomorrow. I have permission to go in this other fellow's yard, and then we'll throw him onto the third Saturday, and I'll drop a cease and desist in his mailbox.
Yeah, bring a snack and a bottle of water on the 27th.
What's the date?
Saturday.
The Saturday before?
23rd.
23rd,
Is
yeah.
on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the meeting's the 27th.
Um,
All right, so-
And maybe we can, maybe we can go by Hathaway Road too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I did talk to Dave DeVignan yesterday, and we actually had a good chuckle about it, so. I don't think he's gonna call us back, but we have access to the woman's backyard on 2
Mhm.
Tilly Way, not 2, number 1 across the street,
Yeah.
and you can see everything right from there.
Mhm.
And we haven't been notified, we haven't verified the silt fence line, the installation, any of that stuff. We just have no idea what's going on, so.
Then you have Deep Brook Estates on here.
So, I keep getting visits from Mr. Costello. I explained to him for, I don't know, maybe the 4th or 5th time that he needs the stormwater permit. He's not gonna get a waiver from the fee, that he needs to meet with the town administrator. He explained to me that he bought a project from someone that was fully permitted, and I explained to him that they only bought the permits that they had, and that he needed to do his due diligence to make sure that they had every permit that he needed. My feeling is, he didn't come in 4 months ago to the office out of the cold to see me to say, am I all set at Deep Brook Estates? There was a question in his mind for him to come to the office and ask that question. So I said, well, in fact, you're not. You need a stormwater permit. And he said, I think we got a waiver. And I said, you didn't get a waiver because there's no waiver. So I sat down with the town planner last week, and we went through the entire file in the planning board for Deep Brook Estates. And there was no formal submittal for stormwater. There were no waivers, there was nothing. So then I got a call from Lisa Leonard. She wanted to know about Deep Brook Estates, that the administrator was gonna have a meeting with Mr. Costello, and I suggested that I be there.
Mhm.
And let's just, get it over. So I'm waiting to hear about when that meeting will be. So, and I'll bring the planner with me. Doug spent a couple of hours going through all the paperwork, and it's just not there. So,
Okay.
and that's really it.
Any other updates from you?
Nope.
Okay. Anybody here with business for the commission? Questions?
No.
Okay, so we have several site visits we're gonna do on the 23rd. And we have at least 2 items continued for the 27th. What else is-
Any contact with the town administrator on the full-time versus part-time situation for the?
No.
No?
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the reminder.
And I thought if we had time because of this monthly meeting change, that Joanne and I could start working backwards in the file and drag some people in for old CLCs and try and knock off some CLCs.
So fun.
She didn't kick me yet.
I'm going to.
We have a lot of outstanding CLCs, a lot.
Karen was working on that for a while too.
And they all turn into emergencies, and everybody thinks that we're supposed to, do it overnight, and I wouldn't go back to ones that are 10 years old. I would start with recent ones
Mhm.
that are still fresh and pick those off.
Okay, well, our next scheduled meeting is Wednesday, July 27th.
Yes.
There's no further business.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at